Hello everyone, welcome to the Oracle of the Central Sun. I am Michelle. Welcome to my channel, and if you're new here, please subscribe. It really helps my channel to grow. I appreciate all the interaction. Today's video is about Saturn and Neptune in Aries. I'm sure if you follow astrology, you have heard by now that we are going to have something quite unique happen on the 20th of February 2026, and that is a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. And Saturn and Neptune conjunct about every 36 years or so. But as far as all astrologers can figure out right now, this conjunction has never happened at 0 degrees of Aries. And the reason this is significant is because 0 degrees of Aries is the very start of the zodiacal year. And 0 Aries is that ultimate archetypal symbol of a new start, a fresh new beginning, everything being completely new. It's a reset, it's a seed point. So this is a very interesting time that we are going through in February. I'm getting ahead of this because I would like for you to understand this better and really be with these energies, meditate, contemplate. And of course, February is also significant in terms of eclipse season starting on the 17th of February with an eclipse in Aquarius. So I will do another video on that as well. But for now, I wanted to talk about Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So Saturn stays in one sign for about 2.5 to 3 years, depending on if it retrogrades in and out of previous signs and these things. And Neptune entered briefly into Aries in 2025, and it is about to enter, after its retrograde back into Pisces, it's about to enter 0 Aries on the 26th of January. So quite soon, and then it's going to stay in Aries till 2039. So this is quite a long transit that we're going to have Neptune in Aries. And of course, this is going to be a long-term influence. But what really stands out to me is that what we are experiencing this time around with Saturn in Aries is that with the first ingress last year in 2025, it was Neptune that entered Aries first and Saturn followed. And this year the same, with the way that the retrogrades are working, Neptune is entering Aries on the 26th of January, and then Saturn will enter on the 14th of February. So this is super interesting to me personally, because it means that with this transit of Saturn in Aries, Saturn is actually not going to be by itself. It's always going to be with Neptune. So this to me feels like a very, very different transit of Saturn in Aries. So what we often hear is that Saturn is in its fall, according to traditional astrology, in the sign of Aries. And what this means is that Saturn is far away. It's in an opposite sign of where it actually feels comfortable or where it is exalted. So that means it takes more effort, it takes more time, it takes more energy to bring those things that Saturn can bring very easily. So Aries is a place of more struggle for Saturn. So this is why I'm personally quite excited that this time around we are going to experience Saturn in Aries, and it's going to be with Neptune. So depending on your age, you can walk back with me and see when the last time was that Saturn was in Aries and what you personally experienced then. So the last time Saturn was in Aries was between mid-April 1996 and February of 1999. And when I look back, oh my goodness, these were some of the hardest years of my adult life. I was just about to finish my studies. I walked into my first job that was extremely challenging. It was just an amount of pressure that was completely unexpected to me, even though I was a very hardworking and diligent student. I think that shock of moving from being a student to walking into my first job was very, very unexpected to me. And it was also challenging to me in the sense that I came from a home where there was alcoholism, and I had just turned 21 when I walked into this first job, and I don't think I had proper time yet to deal with all of the wounds and things that happened during my teenage years. And I worked in a small company in my first job and actually shared an office with one other person who was an alcoholic. But this person was an alcoholic to the extent where they would start drinking at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And so it was a super, super challenging environment for 21-year-old Michelle. I remember just being overwhelmed, exhausted, in terms of the work and also in terms of my environment. So as Saturn takes about 29-30 years to go around the zodiac, it is now the first time since 1996-1999 that we are experiencing Saturn back in Aries again. And of course, now, like I said, this feels very different because Saturn is going to be in Aries with Neptune. We've never experienced Neptune in Aries, as Neptune takes 165 years to go around the zodiac. So it's a bit more of a long-term process that we see in terms of generations, in terms of countries, all of these things when it comes to repeating patterns. But as you know, on my channel, I focus much more on the personal. When there's something pertinent, I will mention worldviews or some politics or geopolitical views or any of these things that are really, really playing out in astrology. But for me, I love to focus on the individual and how we grow and learn and understand ourselves through astrology. So again, if you want to do some research, or you can search on YouTube, there's plenty of good information out there, from the Astrology podcast by Chris Brennan, in terms of what these long-term cycles of Neptune mean in terms of world events. But for me, I would like to focus on what this may feel like for us, because we are now in this different energy where Saturn is in Aries with Neptune. So I wanted to read some key words in terms of what Saturn and Neptune represent. So in a lot of ways, these planets are opposites, and in some ways they can also really support each other. And what I am intuitively finding in terms of this Saturn and Neptune transit and also conjunction on the 20th of February is that while Saturn and Neptune are together in Aries, Neptune is going to have a stronger influence on Saturn than Saturn would have on Neptune. So you can see how these key words can mingle and come together and really influence each other, and how Neptune can influence Saturn in terms of what these archetypal energies are. So the energy of Neptune is transcendent, it is spiritual, it is idealistic, it is symbolic, it is about imagination, it's about the subtle, the formless, the intangible, what is invisible but yet felt and experienced. It is timeless, it is immaterial, infinite. It's about our dreams, our visions. It is about mysticism and spiritual and other union. It is about surrender. It dissolves boundaries. It's about merging. And then more on the challenging side, it is about illusion, delusion, deception, self-deception. It can be about escapism. It can be about confusion, fantasies, and then it is about expansion and expanding into a yes. So you can see how that feels. It's very formless, it's very cosmic, expansive, transcendent. And then we get to Saturn. So where Neptune is about the timeless and the formless, Saturn is about time, it's about limits, it's about boundaries, contraction, constraint, hard reality, concrete reality, tradition. It's about age, maturity. It's about endings. It's about things that feel weighty and heavy. Confinement, rigidity, isolation, solitude. It can be about discipline, concentration, conciseness, precision, patience, responsibility, seriousness, wisdom, control, and negation, the no. So this is very, very interesting because you can see how in many ways they feel so opposite. And yet in ancient astrology, Saturn was also associated with the mystical. And it was associated with the mystical and the spiritual because it was on the very edges of where the ancients could see with their naked eyes. So before, in modern times, we found the outer planets using equipment. Saturn was that boundary where it was the last place where we could see to with the naked eye. So it was that boundary of what we could see and what we couldn't see, and it kind of represents both those things. So what I would like to propose here with Saturn and Neptune in Aries being together, and also having this conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries, which is such a point of newness, expansion, and brand new cycles. So in terms of Neptune and Saturn, I'm seeing this as expansion of boundaries instead of just crossing them. And it is also bending of rules in order to come to new understanding instead of breaking them. So instead of that Saturn being so rigid, now with the archetypal energy of Neptune being with Saturn, there is less of a rigidity that we are going to experience with this transit. And I would like to say that I don't think this transit up until 2028, the 14th of April 2028 is when Saturn is finally going to leave Aries after entering now again on the 14th of February 2026. So I do not think that this is going to be all just easy and expansive. I do feel that Neptune is going to have a stronger influence over Saturn, and Saturn is still very, very present, and Saturn is about reality and the concreteness of reality that we experience here in the physical world. So there will be some challenges, and with Saturn, often it is around hard work. It is around not giving up when you feel like something is actually breaking you. One of the things that I often see in my own journey and in other people's journeys with Saturn is that walking towards your goal, but not being so rigid in the sense that you actually break when something doesn't work out. So in terms of walking towards a goal, saying no to what isn't working and then finding a better way forward. So the no comes before the yes. So these are the things that I see with Saturn that we will definitely experience. We will experience some of these challenging things that Saturn can bring, and we will also maybe experience some of the challenging things that Neptune can bring, because this is a long transit. We're gonna have now about 2 and a bit years still with Saturn and Neptune together in Aries, and then we're gonna have Neptune in Aries until 2039. So the more challenging things that comes with Neptune can be being so boundless that there is a sense of confusion or a sense of walking through a thick mist that you can't actually see where you're going. So lost in the ocean that you don't know which direction to swim into. Neptune can be about deception. I have seen that in my own chart. I've seen that in other people's charts. Even sometimes when Neptune is forming a sextile or a trine to a personal planet, unknowingly there can be some deception involved in certain areas of life that then are later revealed in order to be transcended. So those are the challenging things that can go with Neptune as well. So I drew some cards in order to work with the energies and the feelings that we may be experiencing with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And the card I received for Neptune, just Neptune in Aries, is the Wheel of Fortune. And I really love this because the Wheel of Fortune is such a card of expansion. It is about change, it is about destiny, it's about cycles, and it's also about opportunity. So I feel very strongly that even though on the mundane level, on the world level of astrology, there are some very challenging things that Neptune can potentially bring into our experience of the world. But it can also bring the solution of boundaries and real unity. But for us personally, this card represents such a beautiful opportunity of a new cycle. And I really want us to focus on this. This card shows us with the 4 elements in the corners that we have it all inside us. And that we can work with the change, and whatever is about to unfold in our lives, it is part of our destiny. It is part of the opportunities and new cycles that are showing up for us right now. And then I drew a card just for Saturn in Aries, as if to say, if Neptune wasn't here, what would Saturn in Aries on its own be like now for the next 2 years or so? And what showed up was the 4 of Pentacles. And the 4 of Pentacles is that card of rigidity. You can see he is holding on so tightly. He's got some fortune here that is with him, but he's so afraid of losing it that he is sitting with his feet on the pentacles. He's holding on very tightly, and it's even like the last pentacle is on his head and holding him down very tightly. So this card is all about the material world. It is about trying to control the situation, and it is about holding on too tightly. So I feel that with Neptune now being with Aries, we can let go of this rigidity and trying to control and holding on too tightly, and instead open up to the new cycles that want to arrive, but try and do it with that positive side that Saturn can bring, and that is the diligence, the hard work, and the wisdom. So then I received 2 cards for what Neptune with Saturn in Aries is about. And this was very interesting because what showed up was the 7 of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles. Now the 7 of Swords can be about deception, and I thought that with Neptune this might be what is showing up. But according to intuition, what I found here is that this is more about us being strategic and really finding cunning ways to get to our goals. And using the word cunning, I do not mean being deceptive, but cunning in the sense that we are finding new ways forward. We are using our intellect to really, and our intuition to really come to new ways and find a new strategy to walk, and finding easier ways that we may have found if we just had Saturn in Aries, where the walk may have been a lot harder. And now the expansion that Neptune is bringing can really help us to find cunning ways forward that we wouldn't have been able to see if we were just dealing with Saturn. So then the other card is the Queen of Pentacles, and this card, you can see, I really want to show you the contrast here between. So this card is just Saturn in Aries. It is very rigid, it is very controlling, and it almost feels a little bit like forced into a small box kind of feeling, you know. And then if we look at the Queen of Pentacles, which is also a Pentacle card, she's also focused on her prosperity with the Pentacle on her lap, but she is relaxed about it. She's grateful and she's aware of the abundance that exists around her. She's nurturing that growth that she wants to flow into and may grow even more. And she is in nature. She's aware of cycles. She's aware of the seasons changing. She's focusing on her goal in a very relaxed and nurturing way. And I really want for us to really feel into these two cards, because this one is quite contracting and rigid and controlling. This one is expansive and nurturing and relaxing and open to that feminine and open to the cycles of abundance and security. So these are two very, very different energies that we can now experience, because we can now experience this because of Neptune also being in the sign with Saturn. And then I also drew a card for the actual conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, which will happen on the 20th of February. And I got the Three of Cups. And this is such a beautiful card, because this is about expansion, it's about community, it's about celebration. It is about high spirits and joyful emotions. It's also about collaboration and abundance. So even though there may be some challenges with Saturn, like I said, overall this feels very expansive. Like there's going to be a new cycle where we are walking into new things, where we can collaborate, where we can find joy, and where we can celebrate. So I would love to hear what your experience is. Leave your comments here, especially if you listen to this close to the 20th of February when the conjunction is actually happening. Let me know how this is unfolding for you. And at this moment, I'm still doing some personal readings. Please get in touch if you would like a transit reading or a birth chart reading, or some guidance and information on the year 2026 ahead and what is unfolding for you. Thank you so much for your interaction and your comments, your likes and your shares. It helps my channel to grow and my business to grow. I appreciate every single person that shows up here and the interaction. I'll see you again next time.